What is up, YouTube? It is the next morning. We made it to the track yesterday in the Falcon, so that was a plus. Tag me number 38 yesterday. Passed the tech inspection, was able to run, so good things-ish. Bad things. The car is still extremely slow. Last year, with the same bottom end, stock cam, no shift kit, blown overdrive, and 389 gears, we were at about a 15048, I think was the best one. I'll pull up the time slip. Best time I got yesterday was also a 15.1. Not the greatest. It seems like it pulls harder, but the track kind of gives you more information, which is really what I wanted to get up there for. With the trickflow heads and stage 1 cam, I think I was probably in the 2.4, 2.5, 60 foot ranges. I couldn't get it past that. Started messing with some timing. It pulls really hard. It took off really well from the hole. I didn't burn out or anything. Just running these stock heavy street tires. And we would get, I tried preloading the converter. I tried just dead idle and stomp from idle to stomping on the throttle. It seemed like it hooked up pretty well. I didn't have issues on that end. I don't think it makes enough power to spin them. I know that. I won't do it on the street, so definitely didn't do it at the track. But there, 2.4 60 foot, which is slow. I feel like this setup should be closer into the 2.0 range. And speed-wise, with the 411 gears, it seems really happy going across the traps. I think I was at about 5,000 RPMs in third. I didn't click it into overdrive, so 5,000 RPMs in third, crossing the end of the quarter, which is pretty much exactly where I wanted that to be. Now, the issue is, I pulled the plugs. They are white. So I'll yank a couple of the plugs and pull out the time slips here in a minute, maybe a little bit later on today, because it's cold. And I gotta finish putting the chopper together and try giving that a test run to the shop today. But later on this afternoon when I get back, we'll go over the time slips, go over some of the plug readings. I have an Edelbrock on here, which I'm not really the most thrilled about. I brought a jet kit. I changed out the metering rods to the thinnest ones to give me the most fuel. The issue I'm running into is the jets in this car, but I know they're messed up. The jets in the body themselves are completely stripped out. They've been that way since I've had this, so I can't really do any major adjustments unless I want to start drilling jets out, and didn't want to do that at the track. So overall, disappointed. Like I anticipated, I set myself up to be slightly disappointed, but on the plus side, it made it there. I drove it there. We drove it back, and we did have a bunch of people stop and talk to me about this thing, because nobody ever sees Falcons like this at the track, so that was kind of cool. I still had fun, had a good time out there, had some friends come out, and it was enjoyable. Got a bunch of video footage, I think. I don't really know. Dottie was in charge of the GoPro while I was doing the runs and trying to get it faster, and we just kept going. Very consistent in that 15.1 to 15.3 range, depending on what the takeoff was like and what the top end was. But I definitely feel like at the top end, up at 5,000 RPMs in third gear, it was trailing off. It just didn't want to pull any harder, and it should be making power up there. The only thing I can attribute that to is the plugs. I did drive it home from the track, so that's not going to be the most accurate reading, but the first 2 passes I did, well, there's a fresh set of plugs, pulled them, and they are white. So I'm thinking we need more fuel, which will come when we do the single plane intake manifold. If I still want to mess with that on that, or do I just bite the bullet and start looking into 347, or do I say build the 351 and do one more motor swap come springtime? I don't know. Lots to decide. We'll check back a little bit later on today when it warms up a little bit. It's been a fun one. So, iron hat is just about done. Oh, the Falcon's gone. Thought he made me park it after the not so fun track day. I'm still working on editing that video. I have all the time slips for that car are in the glove box. I meant to post all of those. I have nothing to hide. I'm not a race car driver by any means. But either way, it was horribly disappointing. If you haven't watched that, go back in the couple playlists. I got something for the Falcon somewhere on how that went. Honestly, it was slower than it was in stock trim with a quick one-day engine rebuild. But I'm running a Edelbrock that I can't tune the jets on because they're completely stripped. Well, I could drill the jets out and get them out and then put the new ones in. I have the kit for it, but I'm not going to do that at the track because we drove there and we drove back. So that was a win. Win number one. Win number two, the day before, I went over to my buddy's shop and we realigned everything and rough set it with string because I didn't have time to get it to alignment shop. The thing drives phenomenally now. That's good. But we're in the garage, so I got the fuel line swapped over on this. This is ready to leave, so this will be gone very soon. The rest of it is on them to finish. Then we got the van back. Falcon's parked, van is back. Swap meet at Walnex on Sunday. We will be set up. I have a whole big old box of new t-shirts and things like that. These usually go over pretty well, so we'll bring those out there, and all day Saturday is going to be getting the trailer loaded with a bunch of junk parts that I don't need anymore. And our friends Morgan and Tim stopped by. They're putting an iron head together. Needed some transmission shims, so they came by, grabbed some stuff from me. But here is where we are at. On the Falcon, I'm still running water in the system. I don't have any coolant, and winter is coming, which means we need to winterize that car. I still got to do the boat too, and actually the truck and the van both have actual coolant, so those are pretty much good to go. But the Falcon's still running water from the summer, which means I got to start getting ready to put some coolant in. I got to drain the water to do that, which is a perfect time to put this crappy Amazon Chinese manifold back together. Now, when I tried running this, we had some issues. It ran fine until it got the temp and the thermostat opened. And then we had the geyser over here on this side, right here. So I went over to my buddy Jesse, had him give me a hand welding all this stuff up. So we have a massive lip on here instead of the thin. You can see the grinder marks. That's the fresh material. So now we have a big old thick flange here. Then we got a couple of water pump gaskets. These are the ones I ran, which honestly, don't run these. Get the Felpro ones. I'll show you why right here. This will basically go on like so. And you can see how thin of what we had, I don't know, 1/8 inch or so from this hole to where the new weld is. I think this gasket would actually work perfectly fine now. But here is 2 other gaskets. Gaskets are not all the same. So yes, they will fit, but see that blue one in the back? See how much more meat is around that radius? There's that much thickness around this. The Felpro gaskets, substantially better, but even still, you're gonna have an overhang on the gasket. If you're a purist and want things trimmed up and clean so you don't see gasket material in between, then do something different. But this should work perfect now. However, crappy Chinese casting. Here is the intake manifold, cheap Chinese Jeff Bezos special. So if you look in here, we have all of the porting, all of the castings. It's pretty rough. I mean, substantially bigger and hopefully better, but you can see the webbing right here along these ridges. I know some people will go through and knife edge these. We're not gonna do that, but we are gonna go through and knock down all of the poor casting marks. How heavy is that box? We'll grab a pen here. So here's the castings. And I kind of sort of thought about messing with this. I didn't. But you can see all of these casting marks. See all the collection of crap down in these ports. Before we put this back on and winterize it, I'm going to get this set up and cleaned up. I have the router over here, or die grinder. aluminum bit, and I have some longer ones in the thing, but we're gonna start with this. All I'm gonna do is go through and clean up the castings. We're not doing a crazy port job or anything along those lines, but while it's apart before I put this back on, because now I'm confident in the thermostat, that was the issue, we're gonna clean all these up. So, I don't know, trying to balance and hold lights and do all these things, so I apologize. But if you look down this bore, come on, there we go. See all of this casting slag? There's a big old ridge right here on the outside edge. I know you can see it, but I don't think you can see how big that is. But we're gonna go through, take the router, and just clean up the ports a little bit. And then I do have a brand new set of intake gaskets over there in that box on top of the Super Glide. We'll lay that out. We'll port match the windows to match. And then we're gonna try putting this back on one more time. I think my disappointment at the track is because of fueling. I never went through and did a hard tune on that. I got it to the point where it runs good. But under full load at the track, it is slowing down like crazy and not pulling like it's supposed to. So we were probably running way leaner than I ever should have been. But stock pistons, stock forged pistons. It didn't sputter, it didn't hesitate, it didn't do anything. I don't think we were at the, I'm gonna melt a hole in the piston stage. Obviously we made 5 or 6 runs at the track, so it had to be decent enough, but it's definitely on the leaner side of where it needs to be. And realistically, performance-wise, Edelbrock, I love Edelbrock carbs, don't get me wrong, but if you want to go fast and mess around with performance stuff, I think Holley is 100% the way to go, because they have so many more finite adjustments. So we're going to do a Holley. I got a couple options here. We got a 750 double pumper. We have a 650 good carb here that just the float was sticking, and another Edelbrock that doesn't have stripped jets. I don't know what we're going to do yet with that, but today we're going to be porting this. We'll come back when we're done grinding away at these brand new parts. First round of rough aggressive. The reason I didn't do the port match on the outside is because this is not my long extension, so I know I have a good amount of room, or I already laid the gasket out, I didn't Sharpie it to do the final, but when the head of this nicks the outside, you're much better off with an air die grinder if you have a big enough compressor to run it. I don't. I got that crappy little Harbor Freight one over there. So if I want to try and use an actual little air grinder, which is half the size of that, it'll get in my way. We're not going for perfection here. We're just going for port cleanup. So the rough version is done. This is also pretty worn out. I know with aluminum, you want the wide spacing one. Hit it in a bar of soap or some wax, and it will drastically extend the life of the bit. I didn't do that because that's a cheapo Chinese one that I think are notorious for separating and exploding. Nicer ones will work better, they will cut faster, and they'll hold an edge longer, in my experience. Cheapo ones, they gum up. I mean, you can see how gummed up this is now. All those aluminum bits on the outside, that's what I was using this little brush for. This helps a little bit, but you really should be dumping those in wax, in my experience. Again, if you know a better way, please let me know, because I like learning new things. But we got halfway done. I'm not going to finish this tonight. I'm not in any need to or a rush to. And if I try and rush through all of them, it's a laborious and multiple hours of sitting here with the grinder, and it's loud and obnoxious, and my hands are shaky. But once we are done with that one, the next step will be, these are the fine tooth ones. These will leave a cleaner edge, but it sucks with aluminum because they do gum up like crazy. We also have, where the hell are the rest of it? A couple of the other big ones that we're gonna swap over to. These round ones and these oval ones work really well on the corners. So basically put a rounder one on here, and you can follow the chamfer of this all the way down, so it's a nice smooth transition. Same thing on this side. Basically, we're just trying to smooth out the, ooh, there's a big edge here still. No, it's knocked down, it's just a flake. But basically, I'll come through and get down as deep as I can and kind of round out the edges here. Increase flow down and through into the intake manifolds. But if you look from here, I'll try and do a flip-flop here. This port window already looks a little bit bigger. Part of that is just the brightness. Same thing on the rear. And then once we're done with the outside, I'm going to come up here and just knock down these webbing marks from the casting. I'm not going to go crazy in here, but some people will knife edge them, I think. I don't really know. But if you look at the top of this one, there's a bunch of crap and slag in there, here. They're all kind of like that. So we're just going to keep opening them up. Either way, it's a single plane, so this is going to flow way better than the dual plane will. This is my goal for the next week. By the end of next week, this should be done, and then we'll be doing an intake manifold swap again. When we do that, I think I'm going to clean up this 650. The 750 works, but it has some issues, and I couldn't get it to run proper on my truck. So I'll clean up the rear float. That's the only one that was leaking on this. I did have this carb on the Falcon. It fired up, it ran, it idled good. It was just leaking gas. Might just be a float adjustment, but I think I just gotta pop this bowl off. So we'll give this carb a quick once over. Then we'll be putting a 650, 600 or 650 Holley on the Falcon with the single plane, and I have a plethora of jets for this, so we'll step that up too. Honestly, I think the jets in this 750 are the ones I need, so we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.